Some of you I know use Teams, but if you don't, you will still be able to utilize the loop component, for example, in emails. I am in a demo site, and you will notice if I start a post, you don't just have the functions of entering in text. Down the bottom of your posts, there are actually extra features that you can utilize. Now, the first one is an agenda or something that I want to put in. But when I click on this little icon that you will find crops up in different places now, it comes up with this option of a loop paragraph. So this example of an agenda, if I put that in there, and I might decide that I want to do my agenda as a table. Now, if I normally would put a table into a post, people can reply to that. But item 1, we're going to talk about loop components. And we can have extra columns in here, just the same as we can with any table, just adding in another one here. I can't spell it, which is good. So we have our item. I could obviously change this. We have the description, and we have the comments from the team. Now, I will be sharing an email one with you, but for now, my colleague Janice is on the call. And once we post this, you'll be able to see that Janice can actually link in and type in this. So we're just going to discuss health and safety, something that we all have to obviously talk about. And I am literally going to post that. So you will see that it becomes like a live document, because Janice can make a comment in the loop components one to watch Suzanne's video, and she can add in a new line to discuss SharePoint. Because Janice has access to this loop component, it's a living component within that screen. So you can see Janice is in there. This is slightly different from having the ability to just edit, because if you think in Teams, it's your post, and you can see Janice is editing that right now. So with a loop component, it's actually a completely separate document. We'll have a look at where that is in this instance, where it's stored and whether it's got any shared locations, and I can check who's got access. Let's have a look at another loop component. So I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to look at another loop component now, which is simply a voting table. And you can see in here that we may want to set up voting, and everybody can vote in there, and we can post that one. I'm not actually using it, so Janice won't interact with that one. And you can see you can use these. And also within a loop component, you can actually mention people as well. So with anything in Teams, of course, using the @ symbol, and I can do @Janice, and Janice can see that, and that will then obviously be sent her a mention. So it's easy to pick out in her activities that she has been mentioned in that particular component. Some of those have obviously standard functionality in Teams, but it's really this loop component that I wanted to share with you today. There are many of them. We have a live, a Q&A session where you could just put that in your team post. You want to discuss loop components with everybody, and you can enter a question. And then, so what do you think? Janice, obviously we just keep it simple, of loop components. Janice is just going to write something easy like great, but I can't spell today either. So if I post that, Janice can simply answer that question and pose another question. So instead of it being something that is static and you're replying at the bottom. Let's have a look at some more. They've actually improving these all the time. We have looked at various ones here. We can even link it with a project, maybe a project status update, where you can put in the project. You could put in the owners. So I'm going to just put in here SharePoint list, and I'm going to put Janice in here as well. And there she is. And maybe ask her to pop in for the different projects that we're working on and what is happening. And Janice could put in the status, complete, etc. So it's having this happening. We'll have a look at a couple more in a moment. But while you can see Janice has said, yes, I've done that. And it's an interactive loop component. If we look in the files, this is obviously within the demo site. So this is a particular area here. And you can see that there are these icons that we're not necessarily used to. These are our loop components. So these were very recent, and you can see they've just been given a name depending on what I've called them a few seconds ago. And this can actually be shared or inserted anywhere. It's its own document effectively. And in here, it's actually an online app called Loop, and you can work with them independently like that. I have my agenda, and you can set up workspaces. You can see there's lots and different ones that I am working with, and it's asking you to maybe give you different ideas. So this one is saying the idea of Kanban boards, which are very effective and that will give you a nice visual way of representing your project. This is an example of how it could work. You have your overviews, you have your Kanban board up there with the different tasks that you may want to work with. And maybe at the bottom, you have different links. So if I've done that, I can simply move it into done, and I have changed the actual task to done by moving it into the right area. This, of course, links with Planner idea as well. And of course, with Planner, if you've got Microsoft project licenses, it's all linking up. So there's lots of exciting things, as always, happening with your 365 licenses. So what I'm going to do for a moment is I have some of your emails in here. And what I want to do is to email you and for you to see that I can look at that email, and hopefully some of you will have a response in there. So I'm just going to call it Q&A and keep it simple in here. So in our loop components, we've got some relevant activity options, bulleted list, checklist, numbered list, paragraph, that we could just have a fluid paragraph, a table, a task list, and a Q&A. And I'll put in here loop component questions, and that's in here. Okay, so if I like to send that out to you, and send anyway, within an organization, obviously that would work. So you would be able to access that message internally if you do that rather than Teams, and everybody would be able to contribute. So let's just have a look at a couple of the other components. And then if anybody has got any questions, like I said, it is good to see some of you today. I'm going to go back to my posts, and I am going to go back to start a post again. So remembering now, it is creating this particular document within the loops, and it saves it because I am in Teams. It is saving it in this location, and we go to our loops and we look at the different options available to us. So if we want to go for the Kanban board, like we saw as part of that other loop page, we can set up stages. We can actually visualize Kanban as a table or as a board. So imagine it almost as a board in your room where you are planning a project and you have various activities and you want to make sure everyone is working on them. So they can all be using the same loop component, and we just add our cards in to here, and I would put particularly dates in here and descriptions. Obviously, I'm not going to spend and put all of that in. So I can pop the different people in here and put the dates that they need to carry out a task, etc. And like I said, with the Kanban board, you can update it. If you want to use something a lot more complex, and of course you could use Planner, but this is a quick way of managing a small project and all being able to work on it very easily. And when they've done it, they just move it very quickly. So somebody I work with in Scotland, they introduced it after I showed them this, and they have said it is so much more time saving because they used to send out a Word document every week for people to comment on where they were with every project. Of course, SharePoint helped make that more collaborative because they could all work on the same document. But when I introduce them to loop components, you start using that straight away, and they said it's so much easier. They just go into their team, they set one up, and just keep an eye on it. And everybody, this is just very quick projects that they've got to work on. Like I said, the more complex ones, they put in project or your planner, depending on the level. But nice and quick, keep an eye, who's done what, where is it, and use this type of scenario. So I hope I today have shown you what a loop component is, the fact that it does, like I said, create that other document, and the fact that there are all of these options in there. It's not just one straightforward one. Thank you ever so much for watching that very quick webinar, but it's enough to just introduce you. Thank you.